Thanks, Jat. And a rather abrupt ending to that series, if I might say so myself. The whole ending of that game just kind of seemed to jump out at us. Jat there was talking to Zion, though, and Zion started out 3-0-0 on Mundo, but a lot of that can be attributed to Crumbs. Pobelter, before the game started, we said, what does Crumbs need to do? You said exactly that, have a ton of early pressure in the lanes. Do you feel like that was just too much on the psyche of CLG?
Yeah, I feel like it really hurt their mentality. Like, I feel like their mentality actually was just like shattered, after seeing Seraph in such a deficit. Dexter, like Crumbs just really outplayed Dexter early on. He sat in pretty much top lane, and Dexter was just roaming around the jungle trying to look for him, but he just kept coming top over and over again when Seraph desperately needed his help. And although he did end up going there, it was too late.
Yeah, I think the pink ward coverage and the fact that they got the flash so early and then the camp was exactly what made that happen. And then Nunu, like you said, Crumbs, he's just farming the jungle up. And also, I think that's the best way to play against a Nunu because he will go counter jungle you. But if you make very aggressive plays on an aggressive early game champion, then you can completely negate his effect. And then you get 300 gold for Wraith gold.
And they ended up letting Shifter back onto that Ziggs. It's someone that we said you can't let him have that. It's too easy for him to wave clear, push turrets effectively, and still play safe. So is that something that, I mean, we saw Link on Yasuo. We said he needed to be on a bit more of a playmaking champion, but he couldn't even split push against the Mundo there. So there's got to be some reservation on the side of CLG post-match in terms of that Yasuo into the Ziggs pick.
Yeah, and the first pick Ziggs there, having it left open for them once again. And, Shifter, he's played the Syndra, he's played the Ziggs. It's hard to ban him out unless you target all bans at him, but Zion Spartan draws some himself in this meta. So there's a lot of things you have to juggle in Champion Select, but I think that picking up the Yasuo for themselves, he didn't do too poorly on it. His backs at the end was a bad decision right there, but his farm, he was even with Ziggs in farm. He did a good job in that regard to the game, but there just wasn't a whole lot of pressure that he could apply throughout that early mid game that they really just got out rotated on. Like it was just the jungle pressure top, and then they didn't do anything else on the rest of the map. I think was a big deal.
Well, leaving that Ziggs open, it kind of seemed like a dare, right? Like, hey, we'll leave this open for you, even though we know you have first pick. Go ahead and choose it, which it suggests to me that CLG had some kind of answer for it. Was the Yasuo that answer? Was the assumption there that he was going to be able to, give him pretty early in the game and maybe snowball that into late?
Well, I mean, we did see that Yasuo had a huge lead. He had like a 50 CS lead early on, and he had the turret down. So, that's about the extent of what you can do versus a Ziggs. So Link actually did play very well early on. It's just that the rest of the map fell behind, and so when you're in that situation, you can't really do much yourself unless you can split push. But we saw Mundo get so fed and so farmed.
All that being said, though, we saw CLG make some pretty decent map movements early in the game because while all that camping was happening top, they were able to secure a dragon. Their Tristana and their Yasuo were farming up. So I feel like one of the answers and one of the ways they could have extended this game was to continue that split push that they did have. However, they were slow to rotate back to mid turrets after pushing waves past the halfway point on the river. They weren't able to get the Yasuo back, partly because Mundo was doing such a good job of stopping Link's backs. But do you feel like with the late game scaling of the Yasuo, Tristana, and then Ryze eventually getting there, that had the game gone 35, 40 minutes, could have seen a different outcome?
Yeah, I definitely think that that's something to consider. I think that the early game perpetuating Dig further because they definitely dominated a lot of the early game portions for themselves in the right spots because they shut down Seraph, and then Seraph had a really horrible TP into that dragon, which just forfeited that over to Dignitas that next rotation. So it was just not the right way to handle that in terms of a scaling composition because they weren't playing very safe.
Let's look at Dig now. Finishing in that 5th place spot, they've secured their spot there in the playoffs. They finished the playoffs, secured their spot in the 2015 spring split, which is pretty big for them. But Pobelter, I want your honest opinion on the state of their team at this point. Right? Are they better than a 5th place team? And unfortunately, this is just the match that they ended up in, or do they have some room to improve going into next year?
I think that. They got how they performed. It wasn't like they had an unlucky draw. I think that, they got outclassed by TSM and they lost, and then they beat CLG because they outclassed CLG.
I think that on CLG's side of that, though, they went 1-6 in playoffs, which speaks a lot about the way the team is right now and what they have to do to get out of this slump. We're going to see them in relegations, and depending on what team that they pick, there's different strengths and weaknesses there. So I hope they get it together, and I hope they can figure out what they need to do to move forward.
Well, then my final question to you, as one of our Challenger Series experts, looking at that promotion tournament, who do you see CLG looking at in terms of their first pick? Because they do have the benefit of choosing first which team they're going to play against. So which team do you feel they have maybe the best opportunity against?
I think it's going to be Curse Academy. I think that's the team that they're going to go up against. Curse Academy did get second, but I think that Coast just had a bad day. They're a really good team, but they're a really good team 24-6. It was just that one day that they had a bad day.
All right. Well, there you have it. Dignitas securing 5th place. Now, we're going to reset the rift for our next best-of-5 series between Team Pex Gaming and Kaboom Esports to see which international wildcard team will secure their spot at the World Championships. Keep it tuned right here.
Roaming Link is coming down. So nicely done. He will not go down to that ignite. Oh, what? Double lift goes right into the fight. Seraph, one shot. No, he used the Seraph's Embrace. Keeps himself alive as Crumbs get in as well. Will CLG get it going for broke here? Dignitas is not falling. All the CLG health bars have been nullified